I think it's really important for us to see the big picture here and really understand what's going on. The powers that be, which I will bring back to the bankers, those that control the issuance of money, these are the real powers. That's real power. As Baron Rothschild said in the 1800s, I care not what government's in power as long as I print the money. If you want to know what power is, you need to know who controls the money supply. And those people who control the money supply control the politicians, they control the corporations, they control the mainstream media, they control every aspect of human society with rare exceptions. The countries that we see being attacked right now are those countries that are not bought and paid for by the banksters. So Iran and Syria, Venezuela was also being targeted for getting out of the IMF debt. Libya was also not part of this game. Iraq was also part of this game. We see a pattern here of who is attacked. Only those countries which are not part of the bankster system are the ones that are targeted. And this is very important for the rest of the world, especially those of us in the West, who are being told by our prostitute politicians that there's no money for social services, that we need to increase tuition fees, that pensioners who've worked their whole lives can't afford to even pay for gas and die from cold because the heating can't be turned on in their homes. There's no money for them, but we can bail out the bankers to the tune of trillions, and we can continue ceaseless wars. This is the big picture. This is the reality, and this gentleman in the United States is just absolutely delusional, or he's bought and paid for. Because the bottom line is, this is going to turn into a war which the banksters relish, because the banksters make tons of money off of war. In fact, it's the best profit-making business of all. And even more importantly, it keeps us, people, divided. As long as we're fighting each other, we will not focus on who the real criminals and psychopaths are, and those are the ones at the top of the pyramid, specifically the banksters and all of the prostitutes that work for them.
Stuart Sogel, you know, it's quite telling how the U.S. president has gone out of its way to try to get approval, not only domestically but internationally. And we could talk about the testimonies that have been given to the House Foreign Relations Committee by Chuck Hagel, by John Kerry, and overall just saying that, you know, with or without you, we're going to go ahead, but I'd like to get your approval, again, whether it's domestically or internationally. Why is he so insistent about getting this when he has even said that even if we don't get it, we're still going to go ahead with this military strike? Why does that seem to be something that is now taking up so much time and opening up this window of a timeline to attack Syria?
Well, you've got the American off-year political elections next year, so Obama's being pressured by the congressional leadership, the Democratic congressional leadership, to at least bring Congress into the fold on this, so at least the people who are running for re-election next year, or for election next year, have a defense. But getting back to what the general just said a few minutes ago, I assume his criticisms of all these bankers also include both Putin and Lavrov. If he didn't know, for the record, before Lavrov took the job of foreign minister, he was going to work for the South African diamond cartel, De Beers, hawking diamonds in Eastern Europe until Putin called to bring him back to Moscow. So I assume when he complains about the international bankers, he's also including the people in Moscow and the Kremlin also.
Interesting point.
Yeah, I'll respond to that. I have absolutely no problem.
Go ahead.
I have absolutely no problem whatsoever accepting. I have no problem whatsoever accepting that the corruption that comes from the bankster system, the financial fraud that is usury, debt-based money being issued by private bankers, it pervades every aspect of human society, including Russian society. There's no question about that. However, Russia is not going around the world setting up military bases to the tune of over 1,000 military bases and attacking everywhere and anything that's not down with the international bankster program. That's the United States that is doing that. And that brings us back to the real issue here as well with regard to the so-called use of chemical weapons by the Assad regime. This is absolutely insane to even be talking about this, because if there's one nation on this planet that has no right whatsoever to point the finger at anybody for the use of weapons of mass destruction, and including chemical weapons, it's the United States. Because as we know, with recent reports that have been levied from CIA, declassified reports about the CIA, we knew full well that our attack dog, Saddam Hussein, was using chemical weapons against innocent people, including the Kurds, innocent people in small cities in Iran, and hitting military personnel in Iran to the tune of tons and tons and tons of Tabun, sarin, and mustard gas. And guess what we did? The United States, when our attack dog was attacking Iran mercilessly with these weapons, Not only did we not stop him, we continued to give him logistical support, and we provided the means for him to continue these attacks. So we have no problem whatsoever with using chemical weapons. We used white phosphorus in Fallujah. We also used ungodly amounts of Agent Orange in Vietnam. There are still people dying from cancers from those chemicals. Birth defects in Fallujah have gone through the roof. So the United States is in absolutely no position at all to be talking about the use of weapons of mass destruction or chemical weapons. And it is beggars belief that anybody could stand up and put forward the position of the United States that it is in any kind of moral position or authority to talk about this. If anyone needs to be punished, it's not the United States punishing somebody else, it's the entire world which needs to punish the United States for its continued act of aggression and its state-sponsored terrorism that has now killed 1 million to 2 million people in Iraq and continues to destroy lives mercilessly. It's the United States, America, and Britain, excuse me, the United States, Israel, and Britain, which is the real problem, not Iran and not Syria. Well, let's be clear about this. We have no doubt that al-Qaeda associates, al-Nusra Front, who were caught with 2 kilos of sarin gas in Turkey, that's not Syria reporting that, that's the Turks. And we know that we have provided material support to the so-called rebels in Syria. We also know that there are accusations that Israel provided the sarin gas to Prince Bandar Bush, as he's known, who delivered those chemicals to the so-called rebels in Ghouta for the recent massacre. That's the rebels themselves who are saying that. So if that be true, and I believe it is, Barack Obama has provided material support to al-Qaeda, and this whole war on terror that we supposedly fought for the last 12 years is nothing more than a farce used to justify military aggression by the United States at the behest of the banksters. That's my assessment of what's happening, and I can defend it with more time if I had it.